Hello, this is my tutorial for assessment 1 task 5, which is all about the overhead absorption rate and then whether it's under absorbed or over absorbed. But it starts off with a standard overhead absorption rate. And before we continue, I'd like you to remember and get in your head, overhead absorption rate is always done off of budgeted activity and budgeted overheads, okay? That's how you calculate the overhead absorption rate. So let's carry on reading. Crest Paints Limited has the following information about its two profit centres. And this is budgeted direct labour hours, budgeted machine hours, actual direct labour hours, actual machine hours, budgeted overheads and actual overheads. Then it has all the figures for each. Calculate the budgeted overhead absorption rate for the paint manufacturer centre based on machine hours. So let's do that first of all. So they want machine hours, that's 2966. Okay, so we've got 2966 and the budgeted overheads is 185375. Okay, let's make all of this bigger down here as well so you can see it a bit better. Right, so all we've got to do is get the budgeted overheads and divide it by the budgeted activities, which they stated was machine hours, and we get 62.5 or £62.50. Okay, and now it goes on to say that canning and packing profit centre based on direct labour hours. Okay, and this is canning and packing, and direct labour hours is 8864. Okay, and the budgeted overheads were 223060, and then we just got to divide them. So we get the budgeted overheads and divide them by the budgeted direct labour hours, and we get 25.16 or £25.16. That's how you do part A. Let's look at part B next. Now we're looking at part B. So let's read it first of all. Now suppose for quarter 2 that the overhead absorption rate for the paint manufacturer profit centre had been based on direct labour hours and was £28 per hour. So we've already been given the overhead absorption rate that we're going to be working with. Okay, and that's £28. Alright, we might as well even make it pounds, so it's £28. Okay, let's make all of that size. Right, so we've got the overhead absorption rate at £28 per hour. The actual overheads were 213. So let's go actual overheads, and that was £213,200. Okay. Right, and the actual labour hours worked was 7,400. So actual activity was 7,400. Right, so now we need to calculate how much was actually absorbed. Yeah, and to do this we need to get the overhead absorption rate and times it by the actual activity. So we get the £28 and we times it by 7,400 hours, which ends up on £207,200. Right. And we will put this back together in a minute, but that ends up at £207,200. So if you look at the actual overheads and the overheads absorbed, you can see there's a difference. And the overheads absorbed is less than the actual overheads, meaning there's an under absorption. Okay, because if the overheads absorbed was bigger than the actual overheads, then there would be an over absorption. Okay, so the difference is 6,000. Okay, so now I've done all the calculations needed. Let's make them a bit smaller now. Get them all back to normal sort of size. Okay, so overheads incurred, they told us, was 213,200. Okay, overheads absorbed 207,200. Difference absorbed was 6,000, wasn't it? Okay. And then obviously, as I say, it was an under absorption, wasn't it? Okay, if you look over here, it was an under absorption because the overheads absorbed was less than the difference of them absorbed. Okay, but that's how you do it. You just got to get the overhead absorption rate which they gave you without falling into the trap of using one that you've already calculated. They tell you there's a new one of 28. Okay, the actual overheads. Then times the actual activity by your overhead absorption rate, compare them, and if the overheads actually absorbed is less than the overheads actually incurred, then it's an under absorption. If the overheads absorbed is bigger than the actual overheads, then you've got an over absorption. Let's go on to part C and see what's next. To answer part C of task 4, we need to use data from task A. So that's why I've collated everything together like this. So it says here, let's see, refer to the information from quarter 1, which was this, at the start of the task and complete the following. In quarter 1, overheads for the canning and packing profit centre were under absorbed or over absorbed by how much? Okay, so canning and packing, we worked out the overhead absorption rate to be £25.16, and they were using direct labour hours, and the actual direct labour hours was 8,000. So let's do a quick calculation. Yeah, so we could say equals 25.16, yeah, times by, and the actual direct labour hours was 8,000, and it's 201,280. Compare it to the actual overheads of 215,000, and you can see it was under absorbed straight away. Yeah, so what we could do is we could actually say the difference, which is what they want in this, is 215,404 minus and then that, and we end up with a difference of 14,124. So what we was doing is we did the canning and packing overhead absorption rate, multiplied it by the actual direct labour hours, then we looked at the actual overheads and minused away the calculation we just did to get how much overheads was actually absorbed, and then you see what was bigger. The overheads absorbed was actually less than the actual overheads, which made it under absorbed by £14,124. That is how you do task 5. Thank you very much for watching.